the complete second coming of Christ timeline. The second coming of Christ is one of the most anticipated events in Christian eschatology. It refers to the return of Jesus Christ to earth after his ascension to heaven to fulfill the rest of the messianic prophecies, including the final judgment and establishment of his kingdom. While different Christian denominations interpret the timeline slightly differently, here's an overview of the general sequence of events according to biblical prophecy. 1. The signs of the end times, Matthew 24. Jesus spoke of various signs that would precede his second coming. Wars and rumors of wars. Nations will rise against nations, and there will be widespread conflict. Natural disasters, earthquakes, famines, and pestilences will increase. Persecution of believers. Christians will face increasing opposition and persecution. Rise of false prophets and deception. Many false teachers and leaders will emerge, leading people astray. Moral decay and lawlessness. The love of many will grow cold, and society will become increasingly immoral. 2. The Great Apostasy, 2 Thessalonians 2:3. Before Christ's return, there will be a falling away or rebellion, where many will abandon their faith. This event, known as the Great Apostasy, will be marked by a departure from true biblical teachings, replaced by false doctrine and widespread deception. 3. The rise of the Antichrist, 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, Revelation 13. Antichrist's appearance. A man of lawlessness, often referred to as the Antichrist, will rise to power. He will deceive the nations and set himself up as a god, demanding worship. The mark of the beast. Under his rule, people will be forced to receive a mark on their right hand or forehead, without which they cannot buy or sell. Revelation 13:16-18. Persecution of the saints. The Antichrist will wage war against believers and will succeed in persecuting the church for a time. The 7-year tribulation. Daniel 9:27, Revelation 6-19. This is a 7-year period of intense suffering and divine judgment upon the earth, often divided into 2 halves. First half, the Antichrist establishes a peace treaty with Israel, but this peace will be short-lived. The first half of the tribulation includes the rise of false peace, the sealed judgments, and increasing global chaos. Second half, known as the Great Tribulation, the second half is marked by the breaking of the peace treaty by the Antichrist, the abomination of desolation in the rebuilt Jewish temple, and the unleashing of God's most severe judgments through the trumpet and bowl judgments. 5. The Battle of Armageddon, Revelation 16:16, 19:19. At the end of the tribulation, the armies of the world will gather in a final battle against Jerusalem, known as the Battle of Armageddon. The Antichrist and his forces will attempt to destroy Israel, but this battle will be the prelude to Christ's return. 6. The second coming of Christ, Revelation 19:11-16. Christ's return in glory. Jesus will return to earth with the armies of heaven. He will descend on the Mount of Olives, the same place from which he ascended, Zechariah 14:4, Acts 1:11. The defeat of the Antichrist. Christ will overthrow the Antichrist, false prophet, and their armies. The Antichrist and the false prophet will be thrown into the lake of fire, Revelation 19:20. The binding of Satan. Satan will be bound for 1,000 years and cast into the abyss, preventing him from deceiving the nations during Christ's reign, Revelation 21-3. 7. The Millennial Kingdom, Revelation 24-6. Christ's 1,000-year reign. After his return, Jesus will establish his millennial reign on earth, ruling with justice and peace. During this period, Satan is bound, and the world experiences unparalleled peace and righteousness. Resurrection of believers. Those who died in Christ, and believers who were martyred during the tribulation, will be resurrected to reign with Christ during the millennium. 8. Satan's final rebellion, Revelation 20.7-10. Satan's release. After the millennium, Satan will be released for a short time and will gather the nations for one final rebellion against Christ. Final defeat. Fire from heaven will consume Satan's forces, and Satan will be cast into the lake of fire for all eternity. 9. The Great White Throne Judgment. Revelation 20:11-15. The final judgment. All the dead who have not been resurrected before will be raised and judged according to their deeds. Those whose names are not found in the book of life will be cast into the lake of fire, along with death and Hades. 10. The new heaven and new earth. Revelation 21-22. Creation restored. After the final judgment, God will create a new heaven and a new earth, where there will be no more death, pain, or sorrow. Eternal dwelling with God. Believers will live eternally in the New Jerusalem, a place of perfect peace and joy, where God Himself will dwell with His people. Conclusion. The second coming of Christ marks the culmination of God's redemptive plan for humanity. It will bring about the defeat of evil, the final judgment of all souls, and the establishment of an eternal kingdom where Christ reigns forever. While the exact timing of these events is not revealed, Matthew 24:36, believers are called to watch, be prepared, and live holy lives in anticipation of His return.